my daughter. I didn't purposely kill my daughter, and I wish that this would have never happened.
The defendant has told so many stories, so many different stories, that you're not able to rely on what she says happened that night.
Because it's very simple, I believe, ladies and gentlemen. This was not a planned act. It happened. You don't believe that Ms. Howington was traumatized by the fact that her 2.5-year-old son shot her 5-year-old daughter? I can't tell you.
A woman goes to trial for the death of her 5-year-old daughter, but the question of who shot and killed this young girl is not so simple. We are going to recap the trial of Robin Howington and the verdict you may not expect. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. All right, so our trial recap series continues for you here on Sidebar, and today we're going to focus on the 2024 trial of Robin Howington out of Tennessee. Now, this was the woman who was charged in connection with the death of her 5-year-old daughter, Destiny, who was shot to death back on September 14th, 2019. And you notice how I said she wasn't accused of first-degree, premeditated, intentional murder, something like that? No, that is because this was a unique case, in that authorities really couldn't definitively say who shot Destiny. What prosecutors suggested, though, was Howington was criminally responsible because of neglecting Destiny, that it was her recklessness for not preventing this shooting from happening, meaning she deliberately failed to protect her daughter from being shot. Now, I'm going to explain that, but essentially what she was charged with was felony murder, and that this little girl died, shot in the chest, by the way, that's what we're talking about, during the commission of a felony, aggravated child neglect. She was killed during aggravated child neglect. And she was also, by the way, charged with aggravated child neglect. She was also charged with false reporting, tampering with evidence, attempted tampering with evidence. And this was all for what prosecutors say was Howington's actions trying to cover up what happened and lie about what happened. Now, we will get to what the defense said in a minute, but before that, I have to start this trial recap off with what the prosecution alleged, what they alleged in their opening statement, this roadmap for the jury, kind of giving an idea of what this case is about, a preview of what the evidence will show. So I want you to keep in mind also something else, that in that house, that day where the shooting happened, it wasn't just Howington and Destiny, but also present was her 2-year-old brother, Howington's 2-year-old son. So with that in mind, here is Knox County Assistant DA Franklin Amons.
That's what this case is about. That 5-year-old little girl, in life far too short, in one person's deceit, lies, and deception to cover up their crime, the negligence. And the person's the defendant, Robin Howington. Because at 8:53, Robin Howington calls 911. Destiny's been shot. That's what she says. Destiny's been shot. And a random black guy did it. That's what she says. You're going to hear that 911 call during this trial, and that's what she says. Destiny's been shot. It's a random black guy. Just walked in off the street and popped Destiny. That's what she told 911. But there's more going on during that 911 call than Robin Howington tells 911. And the reason we know that is because of 508 ball sign. Because that camera catches some other things going on. And 8:53, the defendant's going to exit that house and hide that gun under a bush. She's going to hide her gun. The gun that was used to shoot and kill Destiny under that bush. She's right outside the house. All while she's on the call with 911. She's hiding her gun. Well, Destiny bleeding out on the couch. She initially is going to stick with the random black guy. She's Just a random black guy walks in off the street and shoots Destiny. That's what she sticks with at first. It's not holding up. It's not holding up. The story doesn't make any sense. So she switches. She's going to tell another story now. See if this one sticks. Next, she's going to blame the little girl's dad. She says that Destiny's father walked in off the street and shot her. Deception, lies, deceit. Over and over and over. Well, that's not the end. When that lie doesn't stick, she tells another one. This time she's going to blame 2-year-old little Gavin. 2-year-old little Gavin. This time she says, me and Destiny's father got in a tussle. And then 2-year-old Gavin grabs the bar stool from the living room. 2-year-old Gavin grabs the bar stool from the living room all the way back into the bedroom, climbs up it. At least one time when she says he's doing it, he's wearing her high heels. Climbs up on top of that stool, gets into the top of the closet, gets her gun out, comes back into the living room, and accidentally shoots Destiny.
So in other words, the big theme here is she kept changing her stories. She was hiding evidence. That shows her criminal responsibility. She knows what she did, or maybe I should say she knows what she failed to do. And not surprisingly, the defense had a different take on what happened that day. And they put the blame on law enforcement and how law enforcement interacted with Robin Howington after the death of her daughter, Destiny. By the way, I think you can see from our content, these videos on Sidebar, it just goes to show you how important personal safety is. And you know where that is especially true? People don't think about it as much. Protecting your privacy online. I think you would be shocked at how much of your personal information is out there, like your address, your phone number. Do you ever wonder why you get so many spam calls and emails? That's because all that information is public. But that is where our sponsor, Incogni, comes in. This is a service that helps you take control of your online privacy by removing your personal data from data brokers, these huge companies that sell and trade your information without your permission. Here's the kicker. These data brokers have to remove you from their database if you ask them to. Now you might be thinking, I don't have time to do all that. Well, again, that's where Incogni comes in. They contact those companies for you to get your online safety back. You don't have to do a thing, and then they alert you after the request has been completed. So I highly recommend giving Incogni a try. And right now, they have a Black Friday deal where anyone who uses Sidebar at Incogni.com/sidebar gets 60% off of an annual Incogni plan. So here is the defense's opening statement to the jury, delivered by attorney Mike Whelan.
She's a woman suffering from PTSD whose daughter has just been shot. So she's not in her right mind, and they're asking her questions, and they're telling her things that aren't true. She was suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder for about 18 months, medically treated. She tells them that she's been raped, and she's nervous speaking in a room with 2 male police officers. There's a female police officer right out in the hallway. They don't offer to bring a female in. The 2 of them sit there and talk to her, and when she says she's been raped, Mr. Little there loses his mind. He jumps up and starts yelling and screaming, "Are you kidding me?" There is no way, there is no fact, there is no set of facts that's going to allow them to accept that this is an accident. They've taken a family tragedy, a horrible tragedy. She still has a 2.5-year-old child running around in the living room, crying and screaming at him. Not in his right mind, probably at that point. And there's a gun on the floor. She takes the gun out, she puts it in the driveway. You saw that photograph of Charlie Brown's Christmas tree. She hid that gun under that bush. When you see the photographs they took that night, when you go around that corner, it's pitch black leading up to that bush. Drops the gun on the ground. She wants the gun out of the house. Why is her daughter dead? Because of the gun. That is the enemy of the moment. Get it out of the house. So she takes it out there and drops it. Some of the things that she did, some of the things she said don't make sense. They're irrational. Sort of like what someone might say if they're not in their right mind.
So in other words, she was shocked. This is a person who suffers from PTSD from a prior sexual assault. She was not in her right frame of mind when she was saying things. Her statements are understandably all over the place. And as you will see later on, she is trying to protect her son, who she says shot Destiny by accident. In the end, this was a tragic family accident. That is the defense. Now, let's get into the evidence. So the first thing I want to play for you is a portion of the 911 phone call right after the shooting. And this is, again, Robin Howington.
My fucking daughter just got shot, man. Please hurry. I'm just on this awesome drive.
What? She just got shot right now, ma'am?
Yes.
Who did it? The guy that just walked into your door?
He's black.
Okay. What was he wearing?
He got a black shirt on.
Okay. Did he say anything when you guys opened the door?
No.
Okay. He just
My
opened.
baby's just laying in there. Oh my God, please come down. Please come
We're
down.
on our way, Miss Robin. Let me speak to the ambulance so they can tell you what to do. We're trying to get us some help. Oh, 1 minute for it.
Now, that idea of her coming up with this story is something that the prosecution will really focus on, the cover-up. I mean, we heard from a witness who testified that Howington was trying to destroy her phone in the hospital bathroom, allegedly as a way to avoid police getting their hands on all this data, including messages about selling drugs.
I had heard somebody coming in, and they come and stood at my door, and I just thought that was a little weird.
Okay. What happened next?
I opened the door to come out, and she's standing there, has the phone in her hand, and tries to get me to take it. She's like, please take my phone. And I questioned it, and she said a man had come into her house and shot her daughter, and the cops are going to take her phone, and she needed me to just throw it away somewhere for her.
She giving you any other reasons why she wanted to get rid of that phone?
She had said something that she sold drugs, and just that the cops were going to take her phone.
Okay. That female that you encountered in the bathroom that evening, you see her in the courtroom today?
Yes, over there in the black shirt.
So she asked you to take her phone. Do you do it?
No, I didn't.
And there were also allegations that she tried to run her phone underwater to destroy it too. So if you see someone destroying evidence in a case, that could look like they're trying to avoid criminal responsibility. That goes to their guilt. And by the way, Howington's overall demeanor was a big issue in this trial too. Listen to what one of the responding members of law enforcement had to say.
A lot of times you tell a person that their child has died and they lose it. It wasn't one of those. It was still very low-key somber.
And with that in mind, Robin Howington's police interviews were also a key piece of evidence in this case, both for the prosecution and, as you'll see, also for the defense too. But the idea here is her stories, her version of events, they're just not adding up, whether it was just some random guy who shot Destiny or even this 2-year-old, her 2-year-old son, Destiny's brother. It just doesn't make sense.
You called somebody from that house when I was there to try to take your baby boy over across the street. Okay, you were using that phone then. What happened to that phone in a 30-minute time frame from the time you got or left that house till you got to UT Hospital? That phone, okay, that phone has been thrown somewhere wet. We do this for a living. We're not dumb. This is your chance to tell the truth.
Let's try, because I know at the hospital, you said you had to go to the bathroom, right? And you tried to give your phone to some lady, correct? And she wouldn't take it. So after she didn't take the phone, what'd you do with it?
I'm not gonna charge me with something.
What'd you do with the phone?
I don't want to talk, man, because I'm afraid.
So your child is dead, and you don't want to talk.
But it's because.
So what? No. So what you're telling us is you don't care.
It's not that
You
I don't
don't care
care. I got
about
raped
crime.
by a police officer, so please.
Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Your daughter is dead
I know that.
and you don't want to tell us who killed your child?
No.
Lord have mercy. Do you have a heart? Do you have a soul?
More worried about being charged for throwing that phone in the toilet.
You're right. No, she will be charged. You're going to be charged with tampering. That's tampering with evidence. I'm serious to God. You're going to go to jail for that tonight. You can lawyer up, do what you want to. We want the truth from you. If you tell us the truth, then by George, I'll call the damn DA's office and tell them, hey, we'll slow a roll here. But if you're going to sit here and this on this, then we're not going to help you. You've already told us you're scared. You mentioned it right off the bat.
Yeah,
You're scared.
I mean, I got raped by a police officer.
Honey, we're not.
Listen, that ain't us,
I
right?
understand that.
We ain't always in their bad seat typical, right? I hate that happens to you. We're here trying to help you. We want to help you out in this situation.
Yes, I want to jail.
And we need you to help us because, like I said, it's not enough. People don't shoot kids.
Well,
They don't do that. That's a different kind of evil if somebody just
that's
blatantly
all I feel like it was meant for me.
But
There's no
what
way.
you're telling us, there's no way.
There's no way.
There's no way somebody's that close and misses you. So what's the chances that you were scared today and you had the gun and you shot by mistake?
No.
That didn't happen.
No, sir.
You never got the gun until after you called 911 and you thought that you'd get in trouble for that.
Right.
So you're sticking with the fact that Antoine did this.
Yes.
You see, I see a different change in you right now. You went to crime mode to he did crime mode. Now you're thinking the wheels are turning. Oh Lord, what am I going to do? I mean, this is where I'm an emotional wreck just listening to it because I was thinking, yes, we're going to put some in jail, and now we're thinking she killed her child.
No, I did not kill my baby.
But how are we supposed to believe it?
Oh, we're not.
Explain.
I don't know.
Can you explain why you're seeing throwing a gun outside and then 8 minutes later call it 911?
No, I called 911 first.
It's really difficult to believe that a 2-year-old can pick up and pull the trigger. And well, this is the thing. Have you ever shot a gun? So, when you shoot a gun, it has a thing called recoil, right? And you watch movies how they shoot guns and they kick like this, right? So if a 2-year-old whose hand is tiny, his hands are tiny, right? You want me to believe that he wrapped his little hand around the handle of the gun and was able to pull the trigger at the same time, right? Which isn't physically possible. 2, the recoil on that gun would have either had so much force, his little arm wouldn't have been able to hold it, and it would have probably cracked him in the face. He'd have hit himself with it or something, and he'd be hurt. And when I told you they take him, they do all these tests and they check on him and stuff, he wasn't hurt.
And on that point specifically, we also heard from forensics experts who testified that they found GSR, gunshot residue, on both Howington's dress and her 2-year-old son's clothing, meaning they were in close range of those shots. And the autopsy report indicated that Destiny was probably shot from about 2 feet away. And one of the TBI experts, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation experts, testified that if a loaded gun with the safety off was found by a young child, all that child would have to do is pull the trigger for that gun to go off. Now, on the other hand, to complicate matters, police, they go back to Howington's house, and what they do is they check the height of that stool that she said her 2-year-old had climbed on top of to get the gun in the closet. Investigators suggested that evidence didn't line up. So again, what exactly happened here? What happened to Destiny? Now, the defense, they also question law enforcement, and they question law enforcement about how they approached and spoke to Robin Howington.
And you asked what was wrong, why she wasn't really talking to you much. And she said, I'm a little nervous, I'm scared, I was raped by a police officer.
She said that early on in the interview, and then she said it again, yes.
Right. And what was your response?
I think we saw it yesterday, sir.
Well, let me ask you, do you, as a professional investigator, who also investigated at that time at least rapes, do you get training on how to deal with a rape victim?
Sir, what happened to her is tragic, and I do not condone that. But at that point in time, I thought she was deflecting, and I thought she was not being honest about the death of her 5-year-old child. I think at the point where I got a little out, well, let's just say frustrated. I was extremely frustrated. Yes, sir.
You were so angry with her that you leaped from the chair and start screaming at her. Do you think that's appropriate behavior for a woman who's just told you she was raped by a police officer?
I think it is appropriate behavior when you're trying to figure out who murdered a 5-year-old and your only witness is not being truthful with you. I do think that is appropriate behavior.
You don't know if she's being truthful with you.
Maybe if you'd given her a couple of hours or a day or two to get her mind together over after the loss of her daughter, you would have had more information, wouldn't you?
Well, sir, the reason that she wasn't given any time, like you keep trying to say that we just took her and threw her in a room, is because she tried to destroy evidence.
Now, I would think it would be fair to say that no moment stood out more from this trial than when Robin Howington herself took the stand. And at first, she explained her side of the story when being questioned by her lawyer. This was direct examination. And she explained how the gun wasn't her fault.
Okay, Robin, I want to talk to you a little bit about Thursday, the 12th of September, 2019. Did something happen on that day?
Yes.
Can you tell us what happened?
Antoine was supposed to pick Destiny up from school, and he did. Instead of keeping her till around 7, he came to my house instead and started acting irate because I had a new boyfriend that he didn't know anything about.
Did he leave?
No, sir.
As a result of that, his not leaving, what did you do?
I went into my house and got the gun and brought it outside and asked him to leave.
And what did he do in response to that?
He took the gun from me and he took it apart.
And what did he do with it?
And threw it on the ground.
And what did he do after that?
He went to his car and attempted to back up and hit me.
And then he left?
Correct.
And what happened to the gun on the ground?
Callie picked it up.
Let me stop you there. Callie is?
My boyfriend at the time.
And his name is?
Daniel Hensley.
Okay. And he picked it up?
Yes, sir.
And what did he do with the pieces?
He put it back together.
If he hadn't been there, would you have been able to put the gun back together?
No, sir.
Where did that gun come from?
Callie.
Why did he give you a gun?
Because of the abuse from Antoine and from the rape.
And what was it that caused him to want to give you that gun?
Because I was scared and having nightmares.
And how long did you get that gun before this incident happened?
Just a couple months.
And once he gave it to you, did you do anything with it when he gave it to you?
No.
And where did you put it?
In my closet in a black bag.
Before September 19th, or say on September 19th of 2019, did you touch that gun again after you put it in the closet?
No, sir.
Did you go check on it regularly?
No, sir.
Had you ever fired the gun?
No, sir.
And on September 17th of 2019, when you were speaking with Wardlaw, and he told you several times that Gavin could not have reached that closet shelf, right?
Yes.
And you told him that he had gotten to the closet shelf because he would sometimes put on your high heels.
Yes.
Okay. So when he told you no, that wasn't true, do you recall what your response to him was?
Yes, sir.
What was that?
I told him that I assumed that Gavin had either moved a stool or the gun was not where I kept.
Take a second there. I want to make sure the jury hears either Gavin moved the stool or what?
The gun was not where I kept it.
And from there, of course, she gets into the shooting and her thought process about what had just happened, and also trying to explain what she did.
I was walking up to my house, and it's a glass door, and I seen a flash of light go off. And when I walked in, Gavin was screaming and crying, and the gun was on the ground.
Did you see where Destiny was at that point?
Yes, she was on the couch.
And was she moving at all?
No.
Did you try to speak with her at all?
Multiple times.
I'm sorry.
Multiple times.
And did she ever respond to you at that point?
No, sir.
What was going through your mind at that moment?
I couldn't believe what was going on.
What did you do?
I got the gun and I took it outside.
Why did you take it outside?
Because I didn't want it to cause any more harm.
And if the video shows that happens at about 8:53:53, and at 8:53:54 you're calling 911. Do you recall if you were doing those two things at the same time?
Yes, I was.
And after you put the gun outside and came back in, what did you do?
I got a towel and put it on Destiny.
Now, we're going to talk about that 911 call. When you made that 911 call, did you know Destiny had been shot?
Yes.
And you told them that a black male, unknown black male, entered the door and fired a shot and shot Destiny.
Yes.
Why did you tell that story to 911?
Because I didn't want Gavin to live with the fact that he had shot his sister for the rest of his life.
The story that an unidentified black male had shot from the door was not true, was it?
No, sir.
How would you describe your mental state in that moment?
I was in hell.
So, she is saying her son did this, that she was protecting him. That's why she did all the things that she did, that this was a horrible accident and she did whatever she needed to do to protect her son. Now, at the same time, the gun, she was saying, wasn't necessarily her fault. And she also explained that she was trying to get rid of her phone because she thought the text messages of her selling drugs would get her arrested. And also, she didn't want any messages to come out that would implicate her son. For example, there was apparently a text message that she sent someone where she said her son had shot Destiny. But here's the most important point out of all. Robin Howington emphasized that she did not shoot Destiny, and she did not leave the gun or intend to leave the gun in a place where her kids could get it. Now, what happened when she was cross-examined by the prosecutor in this case? Well, as you will see, they try to assert that this story of her trying to protect her son versus perhaps her trying to cover up her own culpability, which one makes more sense?
So you go back in your home after seeing your daughter get shot by your 2-year-old son, according to you today, and you wait almost 4 minutes to call 911. Is that your testimony?
I had to find my phone. It had fell in between the cushions in the other living room.
Okay. So you see Gavin get shot, you call 911 4 minutes later. But again, you don't tell any of this to the police initially, do you?
No, ma'am.
You blame it on some stranger that you've never seen before in your life that came in and shot your 5-year-old in cold blood. That was your story initially.
An unidentified person, yes, to protect my
Unidentified
son.
black male is what you said, is it not?
Yes, ma'am.
So to the police officers, they think that there is a murderer on the loose based on your statement, correct?
Yes.
And that statement that you made was made prior to you ever talking to a law enforcement officer that night.
Yes.
So you are the one that put this idea that this was a murder in the investigator's head, correct?
That's what you want to say, yes.
Well, ma'am, it's not my words, okay? Are you the one that told police officers that someone had came in and murdered your child?
Yes.
And so that is the reason that these officers treated this as a murder investigation, is it not?
Yes, but I was trying to protect my son at any cost.
Okay. You stated that you were trying to protect Gavin. Is that your testimony here today?
Correct.
Do you remember telling the officers during that first interview, right after you left the hospital, that the reason you put the gun outside was because you were afraid you would get in trouble?
No.
You don't recall telling officers that you were scared that you would get in trouble? And that's
No,
why
ma'am.
you put the gun outside? After reading this, Ms. Howington, you did in fact tell the officers during that initial interview that the reason that you put that gun outside is because you didn't want to get in trouble for having a gun. Correct?
That's what it says, yes, ma'am.
Okay, you did not tell the officers when they asked you right then that you were protecting your son. Correct?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
In the end, we have two competing narratives here. We have the prosecution asserting that this is an example of child neglect that resulted in the death of this young girl, this mother's daughter, that this mother is responsible, that she tried to do whatever she needed to do to prevent herself from getting caught. Whereas the defense suggests that this was a family tragedy, that she was in a state of mental distress and she was just trying to protect her son, who was really responsible for shooting this young girl. So we just recapped some of the bigger points from this trial. You now see the two different competing sides. With all that evidence, what did the jury decide after less than 2 hours of deliberations?
We, the jury, find the defendant, Rebecca Howington, guilty of reckless homicide.
As to the second count, alleging aggravated child neglect, has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, sir.
And that verdict is what, please?
We, the jury, find the defendant, Rebecca Howington, guilty of aggravated child neglect.
As to the third count, alleging aggravated child neglect, has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, sir.
And that verdict is what, please?
We, the jury, find the defendant, Rebecca Howington, guilty of aggravated child neglect.
As to the fourth count, alleging, initiating, or filing a false report to law enforcement, has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, sir.
And that verdict is what, please?
We, the jury, find the defendant, Rebecca Howington, guilty of initiating a false report to a law enforcement officer.
As to the fifth count, alleging tampering with evidence, has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, sir.
And that verdict is what, please?
We, the jury, find the defendant, Rebecca Howington, guilty of tampering with evidence.
And as to the sixth count, alleging attempted tampering with evidence, has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes, sir.
And that verdict is what, please?
We, the jury, find the defendant, Rebecca Howington, guilty of attempted tampering with evidence.
Let's be clear about this. The jury found Robin Howington guilty of the lesser charge of reckless homicide, not murder. That is interesting because the jury did find her guilty of aggravated child neglect. And remember, this was felony murder. Destiny died during the commission of the felony of aggravated child neglect. So they found her guilty of the neglect, but not the murder. And they also found her guilty, by the way, of the tampering with evidence and false reporting charges. But it's not entirely clear legally how the jury came to that decision. I mean, if you think she neglected the child and the child died, that would essentially be felony murder. Maybe, and I've seen some commentary about this, maybe they felt that she didn't intend to commit aggravated child neglect, that this was just an act of recklessness. Maybe it was just they didn't want to convict her of murder for this. It's hard to say. I'm not going to lie to you. It's hard to say exactly how the jury came to this decision, but in the end, she was found guilty, and she was sentenced to 22 years in prison, where the individual sentences for all of those charges will run concurrently with one another, meaning at the same time, and she has to serve 85% of her sentence before she is eligible for parole. So over 18 and a half years, and that is for the current 41-year-old. But there you have it, everybody. That is the recap of the Robin Howington trial. We'll make sure to do more of these trial recap series for you here on Sidebar, but that is all we have for you right now. Thank you so much for joining us, and as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.